This segment is brought to you by St. Martin and Bork. Know your rights. All right, welcome back to Good Vibes. I'm Martin Falls, and joining us as usual, Debbie Cox-DeNova. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
All right. You look like a nurse today. Is that a nurse's outfit?
No, but I guess
it's a fancy nurse's outfit. Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's good. That's a different kind of warm-up?
Yes.
Really? It's a new style.
The new style.
All right, maybe I got to start getting into the new style. All right, so we're talking today about influencing people.
Yeah.
Different grades of that, right?
There are different grades to that. And in fact, we should start there because a lot of this information can be used to help your business, help you in front of your business partners. It can also be a personal thing with your children, with the person that you're dating or in the dating field. And it can be used for good, or it can be used for bad. So we need to first, I think, make the distinction between influence versus manipulation. And really what it comes down to is intent and whether or not you are standing in authenticity. So you could actually, and I'm going to show you some of these things that you'll be able to see, like when you have good intent and you actually are going to offer whatever it is that you are offering to someone with goodwill, then you can actually help them to make a good decision and work with you. Or if you are to be deceitful or try to control someone, lie, then you can be using manipulation. So if you're wondering what is the difference between manipulation and influence, that's essentially what it is. So I'm just going to beg everyone at home to use this for good. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's start there. But this comes from Robert Cialdini, who is a behavioral scientist. He wrote 2 books, Influence, which is a well-known book on this topic, and the most recent one is Persuasion. So if you are interested in that, those are the 2 books to pick up. And he found that there are 6 universal principles of persuasion, just 6 of them. So we're going to go over those today and give some examples of why that is. And I just want you to think about at home, in what arena are you looking to be more persuasive, more influential? In what arena would you like to be taken more seriously and have people actually follow your lead? And you can apply these 6 principles in whatever way would actually work in your arena. The first one is reciprocity. Reciprocity is basically when someone gives something to you, people tend to feel obligated to give something back. So it could be as small as if you've ever been in the grocery store and they're passing out those little cheese cubes or meat cubes on a stick, and they give it to you as a sample. You do feel a little level of obligation, not just to hand the toothpick back, but to listen to their spiel about or to buy a box of whatever they're selling, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing can be said. There's interesting studies on it. One study found that when people came into a store and were given a piece of chocolate before they started shopping, they were actually 42% more likely to buy from the store just because a piece of chocolate had been given. So we have this tendency as human beings that when we're given something, we feel this natural obligation to give back, whether it be our attention, our money, or whatever it is. So reciprocity. Free samples, for example, right? Number 2 is scarcity. Now, we as human beings, for whatever reason, we have a desire to have what there is less of for everybody else. So if it's rare, if it's something that is not a lot of people have, we lean in a little bit more. So creating scarcity around whatever it is you're offering is about telling authentically what is actually rare and scarce and limited about what it is that you're offering. So one study found, for example, that if a grocery store put up a sign that said, X amount of items per customer, like limited X amount of items per customer. They doubled their sales on whatever that was because the perception of the shoppers was that, oh, there's not a lot of this. People want more than this. I better buy it up, right?
Water during COVID.
Yes, right, exactly. So it's like when we know that there is less of something, we perk up and go, do I need that? Like, do I need to grab mine before, right? So scarcity is the second one. 3 is commitment and consistency. Okay, now this is what you have publicly already committed yourself to. We have a tendency as human beings to want to show up consistently with however we showed up before, and especially if we've shown up in a way where we've actually promised something or said something. Example, they found that when voters were called and said, hey, can we get your guarantee that you're going to vote in the next election, that they were definitely more likely to vote in the next election when they said yes. But then from that point on, they were actually more likely to show up and vote because it was consistent with what they had already done. They had already made a declaration, and so now they wanted to follow through. Another example, doctor's offices have a lot of problems where they will make an appointment for a patient and then the patient just no-shows, right? And that's actually can be very costly for a doctor's office. So what do? They give you the little cards, right? And the appointment for the next time, and they give it to you. What they found is that if they give the patient a blank card and they told the patient to write down the next appointment, say, okay, so your appointment is this time, could you just write it on the card? They were 18% more likely to actually show up for that next appointment because they had actually been involved in declaring that they were actually going to show up for it. So it's this tendency of human beings to want to actually be about what they've said. If I've come before people and I've said, you know what, I'm someone who cares deeply about the environment. Well, later on, I'm going to want to make sure that I stay consistent with that messaging. And if you are talking to somebody who's made a declaration of that kind, bringing it forward to them and saying, you have said in the past that you are about the environment. Like, what about this, right? It's much more likely that someone who has made
Unless
that
you
declaration.
run for president, then you can lie about everything.
Well, that's a whole other topic, right? We get into
And
politics.
I like to when the doctor sends you, press 1 if you're coming to the appointment.
Yes, exactly.
It makes you engage.
Engaging, exactly, because we're
Yeah.
all so much on autopilot that the engagement process and also just making that declaration is going to bring us to the table in a different way.
All right, we're going to come back for part 2 of influencing people. Debbie is in a new outfit, and she almost wore that green, which almost killed the green screen, but she was smart enough to wear a deep green, a dark green. So
Let's
good
say
for you. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. This segment was brought to you by St. Martin and Bourke. Know your rights. All right, we're back. Part 2, influencing people. Debbie Cox-Danova here at Good Vibes. And all right, I can't wait. So people who influence people, are they born with that ability, or can they sharpen their tools for that?
It's definitely something that some people are more naturally inclined to be able to do. There's an art to it, right? So everybody knows somebody who is naturally influential. A lot of it has to do with charisma. A lot of it has to do with relatability, right? And being able to actually communicate in a specific way. But it is also a science. And so that's kind of what we're talking about here. When we break it down, it just comes to 6 universal principles. And if you know those principles, you can actually do things to influence outcomes where before maybe you didn't maybe understand. So we're going to go over that, why that is important for you to understand, because it's not about manipulating people. It's about taking what's already there and highlighting it in a very specific way so that people lean in and go, oh, okay, so you do know what you're talking about, and I can actually move in your direction. Okay. So we did the first 3. The fourth one, I have a few examples of it. It's called consensus or social proof. So people really like to actually follow the lead of other people who are like them. And so if you can show them that other people just like them are doing something, they're much more likely to kind of go follow the groove. So there was a study in Beijing where they actually took on a menu of choices, right? The menu choices that they wanted their patrons to actually look at, they put in asterisks, and this was a complete honesty. This is the more popular choice, right? And you've seen that on menus before. Well, that actually increased their sales of those menu items by 13 to 20%. So when we see that other people are doing something, that social proof kind of raises it. Same thing why we look at ratings or reviews, is because like, wait, what is everybody else saying? And if they are saying it's good, then I will more likely to lean in and kind of trust the social proof, okay? The second one was that if you've ever been to hotels where they want you to recycle the towels, right? They don't want you to throw it down. They want and get a fresh one. They want you to use it at least one other time. They have these little cards in the hotels, and a lot of times what they'll say is, do it for the environment, or do it for future generations, or join us in this cause. Well, what Cialdini said was that they actually tested something that was much more powerful that is related to social proof. On the card, they put a majority of our patrons use their towel at least one other time. They recycle their towel at least once. And what they found is that 28% of the guests actually followed suit, or there was a 28% increase in the recycling of towels just based on that. But even though that was the case, most hotels are still not using it because they don't know that that is actually the most powerful way to influence people. It's not about the cause. It's about what are other people doing? Okay.
Right.
Another really powerful example of this is, I don't know if you remember back in the 70s or 80s, there was a PSA, public service announcement for littering. And
I knew you were going to say that.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Indian crime.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I met him.
Did you really?
I had them in California when I was
Okay,
there.
so get this. Okay, so it's called the Iron Eyes Cody, and is as if you haven't seen the PSA, it's basically this buckskin Native American first season of boat, and he is going through waters that are littered with trash, and then he gets up on the shore, and there's just litter everywhere. I mean, everywhere you look, and then while he's standing there, a car passes by and throws fast food out the window and lands at his feet, splatters everywhere, and then it pans up to Iron Eyes Cody and one tear, right? A tear comes. So everybody remembers this.
Right.
Well, there's evidence that that PSA actually worked against their cause. Why do you think that is?
Against their cause?
Yeah.
I don't know. It worked for me.
Yeah. So listen, we're showing, right? We're talking about social proof, like influence. People are highly influenced. So when you see a lot of people littering, what they have found in studies is that if there's a lot of litter on the ground already, Mardi Gras, Jazz Fest, whatever it is, there's a lot of litter already, and you see someone throwing their litter on the ground that you relate to, you're actually more likely to throw your litter on the ground as well. So that PSA actually showed like everybody's doing it. It would have been better to show a pristine environment,
Right.
and then somebody throws something on it. Then that makes us kind of go, wait a second, what are you doing? You're ruining things. But
Yeah.
that actually worked against
You
it.
know the other one that caught my attention? Only you can prevent forest
Yes,
fire.
we all remember that one.
yeah.
Yes. Now, as far as I know, that still is a
And
very
there's more forests than in there.
Oh, yeah,
We
exactly.
need to bring that back.
Exactly. Okay, two more. Liking. We want to buy from people, and we want to follow people that we know, like, and trust. So one big way that we can do that is to connect the dots. Like especially if somebody that you don't like, or there's not a lot between you, find the one connection point and highlight it, because they're actually more likely, if you are connected to them and they're similar to you, they're going to want to actually continue to engage with you and follow you.
Right.
And then the other thing is that you need to show your vulnerability, show your mistakes. This is only true if you're competent, though. People found that when studies found that when someone is perceived as competent and they disclose, okay, I make mistakes, this is how I've done it, people actually see them as more human, more authentic, and they judge them as more competent. The other thing is speak a little bit faster, a little faster cadence, not too fast, because then you'll be perceived like as a salesman, like a slimy salesperson. But if you speak a little bit faster, people judge you as more confident. They actually see you as more credible, and they're actually more likely to follow you. And the last one is authority. We want proof. Like there was a physical therapist office, and they found that whenever they actually hung their degrees up on the wall, they actually had a over 30% increase in compliance with the exercises, just because their patients were able to see the authority on the wall. So again, that's just about highlighting what's already there and not about manipulation.
So speak faster.
Speak slightly
So-
faster.
All right, Debbie, thank you for coming today. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
And only you can prevent forest fire.
Yes.
Bring the commercial back. Good show. We appreciate it.
Yes, of course.
All right. We'll see you again next week on Good Vibes. This segment was brought to you by Terrebonne Ford. Built Ford tough.